Hey guys, Tarke here, and I'm going to do my full build breakdown on my Nulls Inclination Pathfinder. Now, a lot of people have been asking about this character and the way that this build guide is going to work, so I'm going to do a full breakdown of the skill tree, the gear, the required uniques, etc. And then we'll end the video with a village rune map that I did on stream. I've made a point of recording that particular map because it was a double boss village rune. I know a lot of people have issues with it. So you'll get to see how this build works in a tier 12, and you'll also get an idea of some ways to handle the final boss fight. Now, first off, what is a Nulls Inclination? Nulls Inclination is a rather interesting, unique ranger bow. Basically what it does, if we go through the slots on it, it adds some flat chaos damage, some increased attack speed, some chaos resistance. Minions deal 1% increased damage per 10 dexterity, plus 212 int requirement, and cast socketed minion spells on kill with this weapon. Now, funnily enough, the int requirement actually makes this bow better because it means we can get some blue wool collars on there without having to worry too much about it. Hitting the int requirement isn't actually that difficult, and we'll go into that later on. Now, other than the Nulls Inclination, technically no other items are needed, but for this build I do run an Alpha Howl, and I highly recommend you run one as well, because it saves you a lot of skill points. Alpha Howl are only a couple of chaos. Getting a Nulls Inclination unlinked is a couple of chaos depending on the rolls. So, you know, you're looking at the cost of maybe 10 chaos tops for a well-rolled Nulls Inclination and a decent Alpha Howl, and then whatever it costs you to 5-link the bow. It's very important that the Nulls Inclination is 5-linked. Ideally, you do also want a 5-link setup for your main skill, but that can be on any base whatsoever. I'm still just using a Belly of the Beast. Now, the way we consistently trigger the cast socketed minion spells on kill means that our main skill, which in this case is Barrage, has to get the killing blow. So I link my Barrage with Culling Strike. In solo play, your minions can steal the last hit from you, both your Animate weapon and your SRS. So it's very important you run Culling Strike, and in a party it is exceptionally important that you run Culling Strike, otherwise your build will fall rather flat. Now, the reason Nulls Inclination becomes worth doing is this build, in my opinion, is tankier than most other, if not all other, generic archery type, lightning arrow, blast rain, that sort of kind of archer. The reason being is you get to stack the same levels of defense, but you also get a permanent meat shield from your minions. And with the way that I've built this build, we aren't that reliant on the minions to deal damage. I would say about 60 to 70% of the damage comes from us personally, and the minions fill in the rest. I mostly just use the minions as a way to distract the mobs and let me safely fire off screen. Because of that, I actually don't run the standard SRS setup. I run Animate Weapon, SRS, another SRS, Multistrike, and Melee Splash. If you run only one SRS gem, you will struggle to keep the 50 Raging Spirits cap. With both, you can very easily reach the cap, and you always have a lot of bodies in the field, which for this kind of build is very, very important. Now, what lets us use Barrage as a main skill rather than, say, Lightning Arrow or Split Arrow is the Volley Fire Viridian Jewel, of which I run 2 in this build. You could potentially run a third one, but doing this at a fairly low level, this character's in level 84, 2 is enough. Now, the way that these jewels work is they give you some increased projectile damage, which is important because it scales our poison, which I'll get into later. And it gives us 50 dex allocated in radius. Barrage fires an additional 2 projectiles, both on the first and final attack. So each jewel gives us 4 additional projectiles, and we run 2 of them, so we get 8 additional projectiles on our Barrage, turning our Barrage into a very potent single target and AoE clear skill when it comes to applying our poison, and the way we apply our poison is through Master Herbalist. Now that I've drawn attention to my ascendancies, you're probably rather confused as why I've not picked a third notable. Because this build gets a lot of its defense through Flask stacking, it's actually better to go for the small nodes than getting a third notable. If this was an elemental focus, we would go for Master Alchemist and Nature's Adrenaline, but since we stack the poison damage, the attack speed of this is perfect, the poison damage of this is perfect, and we don't scale crit. So Master Surgeon's actually kind of weak. Because we don't have enough crit, we won't consistently get the benefit of the 10% Surgeon effect. We are basically immune to bleeding all the time thanks to some clever Flask usage, so that doesn't do much for us. And the 30% increased life is nice, but I could instead get 10% attack damage, 5% Flask effect, and get that. Again, since we scale poison mostly and have very little physical damage, the 10% of Fizz as an extra element isn't that great for us. It doesn't apply the LE pen for our chaos, so that's no good for us. And Nature's Boon defensively is kind of nice, but generating one Flask charge every few seconds isn't that amazing. If you were to go for a notable outside of these two, I would take this as the third, but personally I prefer this way. Doing it this way gives us more Flask effect than a standard Pathfinder would have access to, and it gives us access to both of the durations, which is very, very powerful. The reason why it's so powerful to stack that much duration and that much Flask effect is it turns Flask, an already fairly broken mechanic, into an even more broken one. This is an acrobatics character, and so we rely quite heavily on dodge. We do run a Quartz Flask. Now, a Quartz Flask usually only gives you 10% chance to dodge attacks and spells. If you run a standard Quartz with no increased effect, it gives you 12%. If, however, you use what I like to call the Super Quartz, which let me just grab, and I should have had ready already for this video, you get even more. Now, there is a second one that we want, which I'm now doing a terrible job of finding. It seems like I might have even re-rolled. Okay, I actually re-rolled it, sorry. If you use a Alchemist, I believe is the tag, it increases the effect of the Quartz Flask, and it makes it give you 14% instead of the 12%. Now, this is obviously very, very powerful, and having dodge is always good. Now, thanks to all the increased duration that we pick up in the tree, in which case we get this wheel, and we get a tiny bit from our damage over time entropy section, our Val Grace with an increased duration gem lasts for 15 seconds, which is incredibly powerful. So for 15 seconds we are capped on both dodge and spell dodge, which is pretty potent. Now, this becomes even more obscene when you start factoring stuff like Basalt Flasks and Taste of Hates. Now, a Basalt usually gives you only 20%. With all our Flask effectiveness, it gives us 26%. And it lasts for 9 seconds, and we have 2 uses. So for 18 seconds, and again, let this just wear off, see? For 18 seconds, we have 26% physical damage reduction, which is clean, just clean, right? Now, you can also apply in stuff like Taste of Hate. The Taste of Hate also benefits from this. And another thing which is quite interesting about all this stacking is it also applies to stuff like Topaz Flask, Ruby Flask, and everything like that. So if we look at our vessel, usually this would give us 6% maximum lightning. Thanks to all our Flask effectiveness, it actually gives us 7% maximum lightning resistance. Now this is obviously pretty OP, and when you factor in all the amazing Flasks you have access to, it just becomes really obscene. Cap this with the dodge cap, spell dodge cap, you're in for a good time. We can off-screen everything, and our minions keep everything busy. This is a very, very tanky character, which really doesn't require that much of a budget at all. I'm only using it at Zeri's Promise currently, and some half well-rolled Flasks. Ideally, I'd have a Taste of Hate, but I haven't got one yet. I'm using a Belly of the Beast, not a Lightning Call as my chest. You do ideally want a Lightning Call, because with a Basalt Flask, a Taste of Hate, and a Lightning Coil, you will take absolutely no physical damage at all, and it's still an acro build, and you never get hit, and you're off-screening everything. This is a stupidly defensive character. So, what is actually required? A Nulls and an Alpha Sal, and that is it. A Drill Neck is nice. With the Drill Neck, with the 10% implicit chance to pierce, the Pierce Gem, and these 3 nodes on the tree, we have 100% pierce. But you can just use Chain, and I did use Chain for a very long time. Swapping to Drill Neck was only something I've recently did. Now, I'll cover my links, and we'll do a full tree breakdown. Again, it's Animate Weapon, SRS, Multistrike, SRS, Melee Splash. It's very important that you have a 6-socket Nulls. You don't need a 6th link because we put Flesh Offering in this final socket here. Now, because the wording of Nulls Inclination is cast-socketed minion spells on kill, every time we kill, it summons 2 SRS, it animates a weapon if there are any weapons around, and it casts Flesh Offering. Because of all the skill duration we have the Flesh Offering buff active all the time as long as we're clearing efficiently. Again, we have 15-second long Val Hastes and Val Graces, meaning we can keep those buffs up indefinitely. Now, for auras, and the reason why we run the Alpha Howl, is we run Haste and Wrath. Haste and Wrath in an Alpha Howl is all you need. You don't need to get any mana reservation, but if you don't want to run a Alpha Howl, you can change your routing slightly to pick up Charisma. I originally was doing an elemental version of this build, going Haste, Wrath, Anger, but personally I much prefer the poison stacking route. I haven't recolored my helm yet, so I'm just running an increased duration here with a Val Grace here. It's very important that the Val Grace goes in your helm, not the Val Haste. Because of the +2 items, the Val Grace gains an additional chance to dodge, which is more important in my opinion than getting, you know, a little bit more attack and movement speed. Ideally, you recolor your Alpha Howl so you can put 2 Val Graces in here. You will then need to drop Frenzy though. We generate Frenzy charges through our Blood Rage, but having the option to keep them active through Frenzy is kind of nice. So you gotta sort of weigh that up. Would you rather have an additional Val Grace to keep the buff active all the time, or would you like to have the utility of being able to maintain Frenzy charges on single target encounters? Now, the way that we get our Barrage to do good damage, as mentioned, is through the use of the Volley Fire Viridian Jewels. What the Volley Fire Viridian Jewel does is the additional projectiles that we've already talked about. And you have to take this rather awkward routing to get the 50 requirement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why we do this rather than going through the standard route. It's 1 extra point, but it's worthwhile. And again here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because that gives 20 dex and you also get that. Right? So that's how you keep that capped. Now with that, our Barrage fires a whole load of projectiles. It pierces everything. It attacks very quickly. This is without Blood Rage. This is without our 7 Frenzy charges. We stack our poisons very, very quickly. Because of that, even with absolutely no minions at all, we have very good single target damage. It's not the best damage in the game, but this is an incredibly defensive build. Otherwise, we just go for stuff like Fatal Toxins, get some damage over time effects in here. Skill duration also double dips and increases the duration of our poison, which is very powerful when it comes to poison stacking. We get all the Flask effect nodes on the tree within reach. The only ones we miss is the one up in Witch, but that's a bit out of the way. With all of this package combined, we end up with a very potent tree, which I'm going to bring up on screen now. With a 112 points spent, has 174 max life with access to an additional 15% life if you decide to cut some damage or get those points later on into the build's life cycle. Loads of Flask effectiveness, acro plus phase acro, all the duration, and good damage. Like, this is a very, very solid build. Now you say, but Tarke, you don't seem to have much int, so how are you reaching the int cap on your Nulls Inclination? Well, through the use of the Fertile Mind Jewel, we convert all of this dex into intelligence, and it has a base 21 int on it. I believe it rolls 24 for a perfect one, and the jewel itself costs all of about 1 alch. So you need 10 chaos tops to get your Nulls Inclination, your Alpha Howl, and the alchemy for your Fertile Mind. Depending on how good of a roll of a Volley Fire you get, a couple of chaos for one, a couple of chaos for another. You could get the entire build running and pick up your 5-link rare chest for 20 chaos tops. This is very, very budget friendly. If you decide to throw in a drill neck in Apprentice Hardcore, that's another 10 chaos. Throw in a few good rares, you look at maybe an Exalted for the entire build. Very, very good. Now, the only time that this build does get expensive is when it comes to getting the perfect jewelry. Now, because this is a poison stacking build, which the best way for this build to stack poison through lots of flat added chaos damage, we do ideally want jewelry with the Elrion Chaos Damage Mastercraft. Now, the Mastercraft itself costs 13 chaos. So you need the price of whatever jewelry you buy plus 13 on top. That's somewhat pricey, but in all means, it's not necessary. Before I picked up the Leech at about level 80, I was running with just 3 random pieces of Elrion jewelry, and I was doing absolutely fine. Yes, it's a very nice damage boost, but it is not necessary for the build to function. One other thing I will mention is it's very important that you get Flask Effect duration on your belt. You can mastercraft this, or you can try and buy a belt which already has the craft on there. People really don't value Flask Effect that much at all, and thanks to Pathfinder, it's really, really broken. Make sure that you just look for a life belt with a lot of life. You see I've got a 130 life belt here. The Wed is okay, it scales our wrath damage, but it's not necessarily needed at all. We don't need Wed on our jewelry either. It's nice if you can get it, but you really don't need it. This belt, without the Mastercraft, cost me 5 Chaos. Just threw on the Mastercraft, hit perfect roll first time. Feels good, man. Now, as for Flasks, and its Xeri's Promise is obviously very nice. It gives us Leech. It gives slight double dipping because we have some Fizz and some elemental damage. I like a Stibnite. You can use a Quicksilver here. The reason why I like a Stibnite is it lasts for a very long time. With a base 6-second duration, it actually lasts for 9 seconds with all our Flask duration, and we're immune to curses for the entire 9 seconds, and we have 5 uses of it. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, 6 apparently. And you're immune for curses the whole time. You create loads of smoke clouds. Smoke clouds is just a nice defensive mechanic. I really like it. You can run a Quicksilver Harrow if you do not want the extra defense. Quartz Flask is set and forget, and as far as I'm concerned, because having the additional chance to dodge is really broken, and much the same, having the additional 26% off the basalt for 9 seconds is really, really good. Now, one thing I will say about this build is this is a fairly active build. Because of the way that our Ascendancy works, we only have Poison active while using a Flask. We only have Nature's Adrenaline active while using a Flask. It's very important that you're good at managing your Flask uptime. That's another reason why I like the Stibnite, is it's a Flask that I can just keep up there, not really worry about it at all. Now, because our Quartz Flask lasts for 8 seconds, I've actually rolled Removes Bleeding on there. Because this is a build which likes to fire off screen, and we attack rather rapidly, being bleed immune while our Quartz Flask is active means that we never really need to worry about corrupting blood at all. I do still run a Seething Divine Flask with Staunching, just in case I mess up my Flask usage. But between this and this, you will never kill yourself to corrupting blood unless you do something very, very wrong. Now, I'm gonna end this video here, and we'll go into the VOD from the live stream of the Village Rune. When it comes to Bandits, you want to help Oak for the life, help Krait for the attack speed, and help Krait again for the Frenzy Charge in Merciless. A profile and build description for this character will be in the description. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, or check out my live stream where you can catch me. I stream every single day. I'm Tarke Cat. I hope this was interesting to you, and have fun watching me do Devil Boss Village Rune. See you later. Bye-bye. It's a new recording. So this is the RIP map. Magic monsters, immune.
You could use this for the guide.
Yeah, no, we'll stick to the double Village Rune. If the build survives that, then we'll be fine. When am I going to do the harvest? We haven't worked out yet, Didi. I'll do some planning. Alright. Chain, double boss. Alright, now the birdie might just straight up one-shot me. I did a Village Rune Zana mission, and I got hit kind of low. Like, the bird would hit me for about 70% of my life. And that was 7 levels lower. I have slightly more life now. So maybe that will help. I'll be amazed if I don't get one shot.
It's honestly the doggy that hits really hard, and if you're a wrong range character, you have a good chance of doing it.
Yeah.
But, melee builds and mid-range builds usually don't run the bosses.
Yeah. I'm mostly scared about the bird, because I think I can kite the dog well enough. Like, if I mess up, the dog will one-shot me, but
yeah.
if I don't mess up...
The dog is brutal, yeah.
I mean, even just the Perennis mobs hit pretty hard.
It's an evil map, admittedly.
Yeah. Right, we're going to use the Project PT approach. Clear both halves, separate the bosses. Before he doesn't reach the bosses.
Would be really feels bad, man.
Yeah, that would feels bad, man.
If you get the map drop, just give it to me first.
I got an arcade, that's what you want, right? Tier 2?
Yeah. Give me them tier 2.
You there. Let me bend your hair for a minute.
How's it going, Tarke? It's going alright. I'm just about to kill my character doing a double village rune boss. So, it's going cool. Right. Should be enough. Now we need to fuck around with these bosses and try not to get one shot.
Oh, Vegan, the famous earbender. Your SRS will be pretty good versus Vegan.
If you survive this, I can roll your devil. Okay. So I need to pull this dude back. Where is he? Shit.
Without the SRS, this character would have ripped by now, I think.
Okay, he's near color range. It's very important that I put him just on, but not at color range. That's good enough. Right, you can stay over there. Alright, so now I go and grab the other dog. Okay, let's take the other dog over here. Same thing again. Hey Devour. Just doing a double village rune, double boss village rune. Feels good now. Okay, feels good. So he's near color range, that's fine. So I'm gonna go kill the birds. Okay, I think I'm hitting them. Yep. Okay. Hits a little hard.
My mana is gone.
Okay. Cull. Okay, that's one down. Fuck. Okay, this one's on like full HP.
I'm not up to that just yet.
Okay. The chain hurts a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, just gonna go grab some flask charges. Okay. Now we go grab the dogs. Now both the dogs will be enraged. And they can one-shot me. So I need to find them. Okay, there's one. Must be color range. There we go. Okay, so that's just the last dog to kill. Which is over here somewhere. Over here somewhere. Where the fuck did it go? Oh, okay, there it is. There we found it. There you go. Not too bad if you do it properly. Let's just fill out the rest of the map. Yeah, my Xerius Flask gives me 65% Chaos Res because of my Pathfinder Ascendancy. Alright, I still take a decent amount of damage from these mobs, so I can easily mess this up. So let's not do that, preferably. Ooh, this is kind of a fun placement. Because my quartz is staunching on it, the corrupting blood doesn't do anything to me, which is really fucking nice. More than 50. Probably hiding around this corner or something. But yeah, I need to have my Flask up to poison, which is why I went back for Flask charges on the boss. Let's just waste it on here. 23.
Still no map drops?
Nope. Eight monsters remain. That's a pretty full clear. 7. Nope. No map. Sorry, 7.
He is bad, man.
Yeah. Right, let's go get my loots.
That would only slow me down. I'm not up to that just yet.
Not too bad.